Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
The people that work on the cast, so like you have some people.
I mean, if it doesn't work, for me, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Right, like it's unpredictable.
Yeah, I get it.
Because it's Friday, I mean, it's me, but I'm not a super techie person.
I mean, it could be grades, it could be anything.
Ready.
So.
Yeah, I just like I was here.
So does she series? Any other changes you made this morning? This is something that we much last night.
That was, no, that was.
Okay.
Then I actually.
See, that was nice. So the person by themselves. Yes, right.
That may be, yeah.
One summer. Yeah. Yeah. And And then. And, yeah. I've actually learned that. I'm going. I'm trying to figure out again. So.
Set. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another day of Rotary. I hope everybody was able to park okay. It looked like it was getting to be a challenge. But we'll talk about that a little later on today. I suppose, there we go. So this month for Rotary, this is Economic Community and Development Month. And as you know, Stephanie celebrates the magic of Rotary this year. Have a bunch of things happening today, so we're gonna jump right in. Vicki, there we are. Vicki Allen is going to lead us in the four-way test today.
Please join me in the following test. Of all the things we think, say, or do, first, is it true? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, it will unfurl.
Thank you, Vicki. So, Bill is going to provide the reflection today.
Today happens to be the 24th of October, which is World Polio Day. It's a chance for reflection and a reminder to reach every last child. This is taken from, I think, the Global Eradication Initiative. And this is Thursday the 24th, marks the annual World Polio Day, a chance for public and civil society partners to raise awareness and resources for the global effort to eradicate polio. They highlight Rotary International and Rotarians around the world are using this day as an opportunity to showcase the current status of the eradication effort and what steps need to be taken to ultimately achieve a lasting world free of all polio viruses. 2024 is a special year for eradication. Unfortunately, an outbreak of variant poliovirus type 2 in the Middle East has drawn attention that as long as polio exists anywhere, all countries will remain at risk. But the outbreak has also shown something else: the incredible global commitment to achieve a polio-free world against all odds. In September and October, 2 rounds of outbreak response were implemented in Gaza, each time receiving well over 500,000 children with a life-saving polio vaccine and other health interventions. It can be achieved here, if it can be achieved here, amid all the challenges of the people of Gaza currently face, it could be achieved anywhere. That is why this year's World Polio Day is perhaps an opportunity not just to celebrate progress, but indeed to regarner support and commitment at all levels to finish the job once and for all. Because the reality is there are no technical, medical, or biological reasons why polio should persist anywhere in the world today. Polio can be eradicated. There is no question about that. And it will be eradicated on the very day that we finally reach the remaining and under-vaccinated children in a few remaining endemic hotspots. Not a day early, not a day late. Let us therefore focus all of our efforts on that one goal: to reach and vaccinate every last child. Success will then follow automatically.
Thank you, Bill. Today is a special time for us to get to know one of our, I'm not going to say new members anymore, a very active member. Stuart is going to give us a member spotlight today.
Thanks, Ed. Hey, Rotary friends, can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. All right. So excited to be here. My name is Stuart Rassier, and I am a new member since January. And I think one of the things as I've been getting involved and getting active with this, one of my superpower strengths that I'm bringing to the table and to the club is around measurements. So I'll be asking lots of questions and thinking about what kind of impact is our club having. But in addition to having conversations with me about measurement, wanted to give you a handful more insights into me and the work that I do to kind of create some more connections, and happy to chat more. What I want to share a little bit about me, a little bit about my family, and then share a little bit about the work that I've been doing since, well, mostly focused on the work since 2007 around corporate social responsibility, sustainability, environmental, social, and governance. There have been many acronyms, many words, even in the short period of time I've been working in the space, but share a little bit about that. So that's the game plan. I'll start with me. So we'll move to the next slide. So here is me, and pulled some photos. One of the things to know about me is I enjoy photography. So I pulled a lot of different photos from life around here. As far as my journey, I am here in Rochester. I'm over by Soldier Field, and that's where I am today, and I've been there for the last 4 years. But the journey has taken me lots of different places. Grew up, kind of spent my time between the cities, Minnetonka, Deep Haven, that area growing up. But also have family in the St. Cloud, St. Joe area. So that's kind of like connections there. And also spent about half my time growing up in just outside of London in the UK. My mother is British, my dad is American, so I have dual citizenship. So I like to say I have some Minnesota nice and some British sensibility to me. After graduating from Minnetonka in the cities, I went to the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. So you can see the pier walk up there. And all things Scottish, I have a big affinity towards. The journey then went from St. Andrews to Santiago, Chile, where I taught for a year, teaching first and fourth grade. From there, I went to Washington, DC to do leadership programs for high school kids for about 5 years, dabbled a little bit in politics, and quickly left that space. And from there, got phone calls every 2 weeks from a friend of mine who had moved to San Francisco, who had said, hey, we've got this interesting sustainability project with Walmart. Are you interested in coming out? He called me every 2 weeks for about 2 months. And I finally relented and went out to San Francisco, where I got my start in sustainability and all things ESG related, environmental, social, and governance. From San Francisco, I went to, where did I go from San Francisco? From San Francisco, I went to London, and then from London to Chicago, and then Chicago back to London, and then London to Brooklyn, New York, and then from Brooklyn, New York to Boston, and from Boston to here in Rochester. And all of that was all related to the world of sustainability for most of it. And then the Rochester move had everything to do with my wife, who is at the Mayo Clinic. So those are things to know about me and my background. As far as family, two most important part of the family is my wife, Sarah. You can see all of her qualifications up there, and my dog, Finley. You can also see all of his qualifications. But the two of them are part and parcel. Sarah and I met in Boston. We were getting married we were supposed to get married during COVID, and we had all plans to get married in Scotland. That did not happen. So our COVID wedding was the two of us in Las Vegas. And you can see that, so we went all in, complete with dancing outside the Bellagio, and the wedding ceremony actually happened in the wedding chapel, with a pink Cadillac, and we did not go for the Elvis package. However, he actually took a smoke break right behind us while the ceremony was going on. So if you listen very closely, you can hear Elvis in our little video that we have. So that's a little bit about kind of the family connections, and you can see up there lots of, as well as getting married during COVID, we also got a COVID puppy. So that's Finley in the bottom, and he kind of goes with us everywhere. Last piece of kind of insight that I want to share is a little bit about what I do and like what my job entails. So I started, or I had my own company called Responsible Impact, which I started during COVID. I then went back into the agency world and was working for a firm called Think Parallax, which was out of San Diego, for about 2 years. And I've recently gone back to doing my own consulting work. The organization is called Responsible Impact. You can see up there a little bit about it. So really what I'm trying to do is help companies be better corporate citizens. And how do I do that? It's focusing on helping companies reduce their environmental footprints, working to engage their people, and that could be employees, it could be nonprofit partners, it could be their supply chain in a more sustainable, more effective way. Working on governance topics, a lot of communication and transparency. And all of this is really important that when I'm talking about sustainability or talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, that I'm connecting it back to the business value for companies. So that's how I spend a lot of my time. Specifically, it's things like strategy work, creating roadmaps. I do a lot of reporting and transparency for these corporations. You can see the companies that I've worked for. Here's kind of a handful of them. They're all relatively big names and well-known names. Some of that has been as a freelancer. Some of that was sort of the larger agency work. Couple of highlights. So I mentioned Walmart. So that was the first sustainability project that I started working with in 2007, where we got 500,000 associates at Walmart to make one personal commitment to lead a more sustainable life. So that could be eating healthy, exercising more, improving their financial sustainability. So that was definitely a highlight. Another highlight was I spent a lot of time working in the Middle East. So I worked with Saudi Aramco, who was an oil, mostly oil, some gas, in the Middle East and Saudi Arabia, and brought the first ever corporate social responsibility conference to the kingdom, which was very exciting. Had some fun doing training with Disney. So that was fun, and there's a whole lot of energy there with them, and have increasingly spending more time working with financial institutions, private equity, and financial services, some of the banks we know, and working with private equity because there's a lot of opportunity through their portfolio of companies to really create change for them. So those are a little bit more about me. Happy to chat more offline over beverages, but appreciate any quick questions, thoughts, concerns, motions. We're all good. All right. Thank you, everyone.
So Stuart, we have a connection. Your adventure to Scotland reminds me of our West Highland Terrier.
Yes.
And our West Highland Terrier is named Wallace Finley. And Wallace is for William Wallace, and Finley is for White Warrior. As your dog is, mine is. And our first dog was Pyrenees, so I know that
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a Pyrenees mix. So
Lots of connections.
lots of connections.
Lots of connections, dogs in Scotland.
Absolutely. And we were just to England and Scotland, love it. Want to go back. Anyway, thank you. And that was a great introduction. Colin, could you help us with introductions to our guest today? And I'll bring this your way.
I have an affiliation with the speaker also. My father was British and my mother was a McIntyre. So my wife reminds me I have Scottish blood in me, and I do. Okay, so with me today, John Millian. I want to say that name again. Millian. Is that a strong name? So John came to work for a private financial a couple months ago. I'm retiring in 7 weeks, so he is, I am trying to give him rapid training, but he's been in the business 10 years. So welcome, John.
So I moved here in March. I'm from Arizona, so this will be my first winter. I'm excited. Yeah, but I've been in the industry about 10 years. I worked at USAA. I'm really excited to learn as much as I can from Colin. I'm upset that he's going to be leaving in December, but I'm doing all I can to learn what I can here. And your story reminded me my 40th birthday. I was supposed to go to Scotland right as COVID hit, so I didn't get to go, and I still haven't gone yet, but I will.
May happen. May happen.
And guess what? We have another financial advisor in the house today. So we have two financial advisors that are guests on a day, and this is Nathan Allen. Nathan is related to another financial advisor. So Nathan, you've got the mic for 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm Nathan, 3 generations of Allen, been here today. So, I'm visiting this weekend to celebrate the 70th anniversary of, my grandma and grandpa. I'm in from Pensacola, Florida, where I work for Charles Schwab. So if anybody's looking for somewhere to go in January or February, like my parents are, let me know. We got some nice beaches and then we dodged a couple hurricanes the last couple of weeks. So, but happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Nathan. And I just may come and visit you because we are just up the road in Gulf Shores, Alabama. So I might come and say hi. Julie is here. Julie is going to be introduced officially by Marilyn, but welcome any other guests or visitors today. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thanks, Colin, and welcome to all of our visitors today. So it's always fun when we have a new member to our club. It's even more fun when we have a returning member. So, Warren, could you please come forward, and we're going to formally recognize you as a returning member. So Warren and his wife Brenda have lived in Rochester for 24 years. Warren joined Mayo Clinic in 2000 as a director in the Division of Media Support Services, providing video and media technology solutions to Mayo patients, allied health staff, and physicians. He retired as emeritus staff in 2020. Prior to Mayo Clinic, Warren spent 21 years with the Dayton Hudson Corporation in Minneapolis, where he led the corporate video production department and advertising photography unit. He's also a retired adjunct faculty from Metropolitan State University, where he developed and taught several courses in media production for 35 years. Warren has served on the board of various Rochester area organizations, including Game Haven Scouting, the Family Promise Shelter for homeless families, and he was also a member of the Rotary Club for many years while he was at Mayo Clinic. After retiring from Mayo, Warren embarked on an ambitious hobby of songwriting and recording, debuting his first CD in May of last year. Now, I've had the opportunity to go out and download some of his music. One of them is just an absolutely, well, they're all wonderful songs, but this one really hit me as a unique song. And I would encourage all of you to go out and download it. It's called Chapters, and that's the lead song in the album Chapters. So if you go out to Chapters and look for Warren Harmon, download that song. You'll really enjoy it. It'll be worth your while. That was sort of off your notes there, but
I appreciate the plug.
so Warren, you've been invited back into Rotary because you're an outstanding person in the community and you've chosen to walk of life. Thus, we welcome you back into the membership of the Rotary Club of Rochester and into the fellowship of Rotary International throughout the world. You're aware of the responsibilities of membership, and your fellow Rotarians expect you to honor the principles for which Rotary stands. The motto of Rotary is service above self, and we commit to the personal care of each Rotarian so that it may be respected and allowed to grow among those with whom we come into contact. So as a commitment to this ideal, let me present you with a new Rotary lapel pin, which we ask you to wear, a code of ethics, and a member folder. These are things you've seen before, but as a returning member, we wanted to make sure you were welcomed. And then at the end of the meeting, I would ask that you go to the back of the room so people can say hello. Okay, thank you.
Can I grab a picture with it? Sure.
Is the
See, you're up there. So
so
this is before now.
Kim?
Mine just.
It's in the folder,
It's in the folder.
otherwise I have extra.
I know these guys, yeah, old friends, old friend. Should I get over there?
Give me a phone up there. On it.
Okay. Gotta do an ass shot.
So, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
oh,
I have it.
here's your.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, thank you so much.
So, Frank, hang on. So you are up, but today is, different. This is not Happy Bucks. But you're welcome to utilize that the donations today, will go towards, World Polio Day. There's a couple of different avenues. If you remember, go ahead, go to the next one. October 24th, we're highlighting World Polio Day today. And as Frank is going around soliciting donations for World Polio Day. At that point, I'm gonna ask Ashok to come up, not yet, so you can go ahead and finish that fight. But today, actually all month, anytime during the month of October, if you give at least $100 to Polio Plus before October 31st, the donation will be matched 1-to-1 with recognition points. And if you give $365, the equivalent of $1 today to Polio Plus during the campaign, they'll utilize those recognition points towards a Paul Harris Fellowship. So there you would get virtually a 3-to-1 match, or 2-to-1, whatever. So you would be getting a full Paul Harris Fellowship with that $365 donation. So today, we're going to pass the hat. If you'd like that to just be a donation on behalf of the Rotary Club, that's how that will be designated. If you would like it as an individual donation that would be registered with Rotary International, and you would give that donation by check, we'll make sure that that goes in your name. Or if you're giving a more substantial donation and you would like a receipt and have it in your name, please let us know. So 3 different options. One of the easiest options, though, is to go out to Rotary International to this link and just click on donate, and then make sure you click on Polio Plus. I did this just 2 days ago. So I would love for every member of our club to participate in the World Polio Day and donate to Polio Plus. So Frank, I'm very happy if you were to go around and instead of Happy Bucks, it would be a donation to World Polio on behalf of or because of, however you would phrase it. There you go.
You can still celebrate something?
You can.
Okay, $5 went in, and it's because with my mom and dad's 70th wedding anniversary on Saturday, my son arrives, but what's even better is he brought the grandchildren. So I'm celebrating my 2 grandkids here this week. So who's up next? Maybe at this table, Marilyn?
Well, I will celebrate gratitude for the fact that my children and granddaughter all were very easily vaccinated against polio, and I wish the same for all the children of the world.
Sort of table. Here, Bill. Overall for the World Polio Day celebration.
I'm happy to continue to donate to Polio Plus. One of my first bosses was a young, well, he was no longer young, but in his younger days, he was impacted by polio. So I saw how important the prevention of this disease is.
Thank you, Sarah. Over here, Vicki.
Got a donation because it's Jim Snow's birthday next week. We got Frank Allen's anniversary and my dad's birthday, and he's 88 today, Jim.
I'm just so delighted that I've never had it, that I keep wanting contributing money.
Well, thank you for welcoming me back to this wonderful club, and I hope to become again very active. And also, my dad is a polio survivor, and this is very important. It's also his 37th anniversary today.
Seems like a good cause to me.
Good job.
And I'll do a donation for the Polio Plus Fund.
Excellent. I see money. I'm chasing over it. Here's George.
Hope everybody gives.
Else? Going once?
So if you could hand the microphone to Ashok.
Ashok, all right. We take a picture together? No. There you go.
I'll put a check in that Chairson can clarify what to put in the name part. Yeah, just three things. One, I really enjoyed visiting the Nobel Museum and the forum where the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine was. That was last week as part of the Mayo Karolinska Institute research collaboration, which celebrated 30 years. And on the way home, I stopped by London, and my relative, who's club president of the Hertfordshire Club. So Steve, a steward in your honor, and also the club, this is their size of the flag. Everything's a little smaller, but it's still a big heart. And we were invited to also give a presentation on November 7th to another club in UK. So we can do Zoom that way, and it works well. I also reminded us that we have things to protect you against rain or sun. And I gave one of those to Mukesh. And then the other point about polio, I really think Rotary is the flagship program around the world. Since 1916, we've lost lots of people, but with the world coming together, just like we've experienced through COVID vaccination and dilemmas, we are at 99.9% eradication for polio. So as Bill nicely mentioned, it's really going to be important to rally up and make sure we finish the job. Afghanistan, Pakistan are the two countries that are back. I still see patients with post-polio syndrome, and respiratory failure is still a common challenge in that population. So yeah, thank you for giving to polio. Thank you for supporting World Health and making this a global collaboration. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go through the next slides rapid pace here. We had a number of birthdays this month, and happy birthday to John and Marilyn yesterday. I don't think, was Marilyn online? No, okay. But if you get a chance, please wish Marilyn a happy birthday. Also, we have a number of Rotarians celebrating their anniversaries this month. Judy, Kathy, Jeffrey, and Chuck. Our Happy Thoughts fundraiser so far has raised $335. Thank you all for your contributions. I want to thank everyone who helped this year at White Oaks Park. This was our final day on October 16th, and we made sure it was spick and span before we left. I want to remind everybody that our Christmas party is on December 19th at 5 p.m. For the social hour and 6 p.m. This is at Summerby. Just to get a sense, and I'd like everybody not only to come, but to also bring their spouses. Just by a raise of hands, could I get just a quick view of who all plans to attend that? Okay, so a pretty good number. What we're going to try and do is keep the fee this year at $35. The intent, though, would be that we would need about 55 people in attendance to sort of break even. Otherwise, there's going to be a cost to the club, some of which we have budgeted. But we are also inviting the other two clubs, so please encourage members from the other two clubs to join us. There will be live music by a band called Rock Bottom playing Christmas music. So we hope to see you all there. Next, on October 31st, we're going to have a rotation day at Nuss Truck and Equipment. They have an incredible museum. I hope you can all make it for that meeting. It's a bring your own lunch event, but we're excited to have that. And
I want to get the next speaker up here, but these are on your table. If you need assistance to get there, call You don't need to register.
Okay, so so for those of you online, Colin has put out information about the location, and if you need assistance to get there, let us know. Okay, thank you. And just real quickly, the midterm is coming up on January 18th. Go ahead. 100th anniversary planning. Remember, May 15th, 2025 is our 100th anniversary party. We continue to have Channel One volunteer opportunities. Rotary Making Peace Visible Conference is on May 2nd to the 3rd, 2025. And we also have now a new fundraising campaign, and this is to raise funds towards the Rochester Grants Committee. At a future meeting, I'm going to ask Judy to highlight some of the things that the Rochester Grants Committee has done in the last couple of years. We're not going to do that today because we've got to move forward. And the Community Impact Days yesterday and this Saturday. Anybody who is able to, please go out to the Family Service Rochester site and sign up. If you go to the next one, this is a couple of photographs from yesterday. As you can see, we were helping a senior with yard maintenance, raking leaves, cleaning out gardens and stuff. You'll see in the middle, we developed a very efficient process for filling up bags with folded tarp and funneling it in. It worked very well. I was with a high school student from Century High School, a nursing student, and another individual, and I can't remember her occupation. But it was a very successful day, and we were able to leave that yard spick and span. Just a reminder that every month we are highlighting something about our 100 years. And this was a moment in time that I went over at our last meeting with Susan Kelly as became the first woman Rotarian in Rochester in 1996. Marilyn was installed as the first woman president of the Rochester Rotary Club. And from 2014 to 2015, Carol Weigel, past president of our club, was installed as the first female district governor representing Rotary International District 5960. And now, Marilyn, if you could please introduce our speaker, and sorry, the program went a little long, but I tried my best to catch up.
Okay, well, I am thrilled to have as our speaker today, Julie Ruzick from Cradle to Career. And as I think all or most of you know, TRCR, as well as the other two Rotary clubs in Rochester, are community partners with Cradle to Career. And just a couple of weeks ago, several of us were at the annual education summit volunteering. So Julie is amongst friends and fans, we decided as she arrived today. And I'm just going to do an abbreviated intro in the interest of time. Julie does have to leave right at 1. So, but Julie Ruzick is the executive director of the Cradle to Career program in Rochester, Minnesota. Cradle to Career is a community-wide initiative that works to improve educational outcomes for every child and young adult in Rochester by transforming the way that community partners work together. So she has been the executive director since 2022, and she is committed to transforming systems for children and families by addressing barriers, working together, and elevating students' stories and lived experiences. Julie believes that all students can reach their full potential. Just briefly, she lives here in Rochester, Minnesota with her husband, Matt, and 2 amazing kids, Olivia and William, and a golden retriever, Rudy. So education and adventure are a huge part of the family's fabric. They have a goal to visit all 50 states and many state and national parks along the way. Matt is the principal of John Marshall High School this year, and 3/4, or has been, but this year, 3/4 of her family is at John Marshall, with Olivia being a senior and Will a freshman. So please join me in welcoming Julie.
If you don't know that's gonna happen, you don't know what to tell. Well, hi, everyone. I know I have a brief amount of time to talk to you today. If you know me very well, I can talk about this subject for a very long time. So find me after today if you want to keep talking. I'm reminded that I was here about, well, right when I started the job. So I've been on the job 2 years and 3 months. And right as I was coming into this role, I presented at your club. So you've been seeing me for a while, and we have a lot to update you on today. So I'm very happy to be here. Let's jump into it. Marilyn, thank you for helping us with our elevator pitch. This is our elevator pitch. This is what Cradle to Career is committed to doing. And if we go to the next slide, the most important part of our elevator pitch is what's highlighted here in yellow. There, transforming the way that partners work together. As many of you know, there are a lot of partners in this community. There are so many people that are working to support children and families in this community. We are not an additional direct service provider. What makes us very unique is that we are convening all of the existing partners to say, let's all work together around a specific problem or issue. And there aren't very many organizations in our town that are doing that for families and children. Okay, very briefly, a little bit about who we are and how long we've been around. So we are one of over 75 communities across the country that are doing this convening or collaborative type of work. In the state of Minnesota, we are one of 9 communities. And we have, in the last couple of years, really strengthened our state coalition. So there are 9 communities across the state of Minnesota. People always want to know where they are. And I should have written them down because I promise you I'll forget one. But let's try. Austin, Rochester, thank you for Killington, Red Wing, Northfield, Faribault. There are 3 in the metro area, St. Paul, Minneapolis, 1 for Minneapolis and St. Paul. St. Louis Park, St. Cloud. That's the first time I've ever named all 9. But what's really special about our statewide coalition is that we have been able to exercise a statewide muscle. And a huge win for us in the last year was that we were written into base funding in the state of Minnesota education budget. So for the first time ever, we have some very relatively sustainable funding for each of our initiatives, which is a huge win. I thought there wasn't a lot of money in public education, which was my prior career. And then I entered the land of nonprofits and realized like, oh, in education, I didn't have enough money to start with. Now I'm going out and having to find not enough money and still keep doing our job. So thanks to Jen for mentoring me on that one. We are the only initiative, as I mentioned before, the only initiative of its kind here in our area, and I'm very proud of that. And you can see that our work has 5 goals. I'm not going to go over them right now because I'm going to talk to you about those in my future slides. Oh, before we move on, I could not do this work alone. This is the kind of work you do with a team, and that is our amazing team. A few people are missing up at the top. And they're just a really amazing group of human beings. So we call this group our backbone team, and we work with the hundreds of other people and organizations to support kids and families in our community. You can see in bold that this is what our work kind of looks like. So we're regularly convening partners. We use data to drive our decision making. So we're always looking at overall outcomes for youth, but more specifically, we're looking at disaggregated outcomes for youth. And an example of that is graduation rates. We're always keeping track of what our local graduation rates look like, and then we disaggregate those graduation rates and understand what populations are undergraduating or underperforming, and then how can we build some strategies to support those populations to improve the overall graduation rate. So I'm really proud of the work we've done there as well. We're building relationships, dismantling barriers, amplifying voices is another thing you should see in my presentation moving forward. Strive Together, our parent organization, really encourages us and actually asks us to prioritize the voices of the students and families that we serve. And so we have worked really hard to build relationships and connect with students and families to make sure that the work we're doing is what they actually want us to be doing, something that's going to meet their needs. So we're really proud of that. And then at the bottom, we're working toward a shared vision of citywide educational success. Oftentimes people think, well, isn't that the school district's job? And there's actually some data that says that kids spend, I think, at more than 2/3 of their time, 3/4 of their time, I think, outside of the school building. And so the responsibility is really all of ours to make sure that children are educated and realizing success beyond education. Now, are the education partners in our community huge components of our work? Absolutely, but they're a piece of it, and so are the rest of us. Let's keep going. Okay, you all can read this, correct? Not intentional. I actually have a bunch of resources that I will leave with you all too, but I wanted you to see that one of the biggest wins since I have been around is that we now have an approved strategic plan. And so this really guides us in what our work is. It has very specific benchmarks for what we should be accomplishing, and then tangible evidence for what we're doing. It also names the regular population level data that we are looking at. And we do that, like I said, very regularly. Let's keep moving. How are we organized? We are organized into something called networks. You can think of them as working groups. And we have currently our prenatal to age 3 work group, our transition to kindergarten work group, our high school graduation work group. The other two that you see at the bottom, post-secondary and workforce, are in the preparatory stages. And we have a position, a network facilitator that works to convene all of those partners. I'll talk more about that in a moment. We also have a civic engagement arm, and we have a parent advocate. Her name is Beth. And she really works, as I mentioned before, when we were talking about centering voices, she works to convene a parent council regularly. And the parents that sit on that parent council are representative of different communities within our community. So we have parents of Latinx or Hispanic descent, multilingual speakers. We have parents who have children with special needs. We have parents from the northwest side of town, from the southeast side of town, really making sure that we have a variety of family members that are represented. Beth also connects very regularly with student groups to make sure that she understands what students need, and then brings that back to our group as well. We have a huge, it was our biggest department at one time with 2 employees, data and research department, but as I mentioned, it is a really important part of our work. So we have a data and research department, a communications department, and our work is guided by our leadership table, of which Jen is a member. I'm wondering anyone else, no one else here. But many of you in the past have either served or know someone who has served on our leadership table. This is a little bit about what our networks are focused on, and I believe that you will have access to this PowerPoint. I can leave it with you if you would like to take a look at it later, because I won't have time today to go into what all of our networks are focused on. So I'm just going to focus on a couple of things. One of the things that our high school network has really been working on, and I'll leave this flyer as well, is FAFSA completion. So federal student aid completion and submitting that form. What we know about FAFSA completion is that even if a student doesn't qualify, well, first of all, I'm going to backtrack. By just completing the application, it increases the chances of a child going on to some type of post-secondary by 34%. So just completing that application is a huge step. And we know that there are many barriers to financial aid application completion. And they're very different based on each family that you talk to. So we worked with our partners last spring to understand also, if you don't have anyone that has filled out a financial aid application recently, They changed the application process and made it more easy. However, as per sometimes what happens with the federal government, it actually made it much more difficult for youth and families to complete that application. So this was the perfect time for us to focus on FAFSA completion, just because of all the barriers that exist. Anyway, we worked with a variety of our partners, our content-based partners, so those that know a lot about the FAFSA application and scholarship information. So our higher ed institutions, a group called College Possible, those were our content partners. And then we also looked at our community-based organizations that have access to student and families. And we said, all right, let's bring them together and figure out how we can positively impact FAFSA completion rates in our community. I should also say, all of this was based on our graduation rates, as I mentioned earlier, because we found that in our community, those that identify as Hispanic or Latinx or Black or African American are graduating at a lower rate than the rest of their peers. So working on making a plan for your future, understanding your next steps, FAFSA is a huge component of that. So we work with many of our community-based organizations to say, we'll come to you. You don't have to come to school. You don't have to come to a place where you might not feel safe. We'll come to you and we'll help you complete that application, whatever that might look like. We set a goal of having 75 completed applications in about a 5-month period. We got to 55. We also provided housing for 2 families, or students specifically, who were unhoused, and we learned a lot. So we're currently in phase 2 of figuring that out. Okay, that is high school FAFSA. The other piece is our parent council. So as I mentioned, Beth has been convening our parent council and just completed a parent advocacy training. So a lot of the work is working with our families to understand and help them learn how they can advocate for their kids. Many of us knew how to do that. And so when our kid had an issue, we knew who to call. We talked to somebody who gave us some advice to call someone else to solve our child's issue. There are a lot of families who have no idea how to do that and who to talk to when advocating for their kids. So Beth just finished a 6-week training to help families understand how to advocate for their children. We could go into the rest, but I think I'm running out of time. I want to talk a little bit about celebrations and looking ahead and what's coming next for our organization. And I would be remiss if I didn't first talk about our annual education summit. Your club has been paramount in the success of this event. This was our 3rd year. It happened on October 9th at Cascade Meadow, St. Mary's campus. And it is filled with celebrations. So this was the first year, well, we had record attendance. So 230 people in our community registered for this event. And the goal really was to focus on partnerships in our community, the power in partnerships, both partnerships that Cradle to Career are convening and those that exist outside of Cradle to Career. There are so many of them. And so, like I said, it was a free, I don't think I mentioned it was free, but it was a free day of professional development for anyone in our community, nonprofit, for-profit, business, government, volunteer, elected official, who cares about kids and partnerships and student success, to come together and really learn about what exists in our community. And in addition, what the challenges are that still exist. So we had 230 people register, 20 that walked in, so that gave us about 250. We had 30 presentations with over 50 presenters. We had a keynote speaker for the first time ever. His name is Miles Shaver, and he is a professor at the University of Minnesota Carlson School of Management, and a panel discussion. We had 28 volunteers. And I promise you, our event would not have happened without our volunteers. You were moving chairs, they were greeting people, they were helping at the registration desk, they were helping set up and take down lunch. It was a beautiful day. And then we also had our most survey responses that we've ever had. We had 55 people that responded to us after our event and shared, I would say 99% of the feedback incredibly positive. The things we knew we needed to improve, the things they said that we needed to improve, we already knew that too. All right, let's keep going. This is a couple of slides of, I tried to grab mostly Rotarians, and I know Don Sapala is in your club, correct? No, he's in another club. Is he morning? He's a Rotarian. I tried to, Don was there, I think, before any of the staff, and potentially left after all of us really put in the time. So on behalf of all Rotarians, he did you all right. So I hope some of the rest of you that were there see yourselves in this slide. So hopefully this gives you a little taste of our keynotes and the attendees. Our school resource officers were in attendance, school district folks. It was a beautiful day. Let's go to the next one. Janet was there, the superintendent was there. Kim did a great job at the registration desk. Diane, she told me she couldn't make it today, but she sits on our high school group. If you're wondering about Rotary representation across the 3 clubs, it was really a beautiful thing to see. A few quick celebrations for us and next steps, and then I'll wrap up. I think I'll have time for a couple of questions. We are continuing to grow. Now that we have, like I mentioned, this strategic plan, we know exactly what we need to do. And we're figuring out how we're going to do that with our partners. So that's really driving our success. We have a new website, and I did put a link there. We're not going to be able to get to it today, but if you haven't visited our website yet, we're trying to make it incredibly user-friendly to describe what it is that we're doing, because this type of work is new to some people and sometimes leaves you with more questions than answers. So we're hoping that our website will give you a little bit more detail into what our work looks like. We also have been invited to apply. This is a really big deal for us. Our parent organization, Strive Together, is consistently evaluating partnerships across the country. And then they give you a category of how your partnership or your initiative is progressing. So it starts at emerging and goes all the way to systems transformation. We have been in the middle category of assessment or how they have assessed us for about 5 years now, called sustaining. And we just right now are completing our application for systems change. So it's a way that our parent company identifies that we are doing what we need to do to change systems in Rochester. So that's very exciting to us. Some future events that we have coming up: an annual education summit. Well, our next annual education summit will be October of next year. The date is TBA. We have a student data summit that we host for youth by youth every spring. And so we're setting the date for that right now, but that will be happening this spring of 2025. If you have any connections to our content or anything that you heard about today and you know a partner or you yourself have something to offer, contact me, please. And I have my card here that I will leave as well. And then what we're also asking is that you will share our work. If you volunteered with us at our event, or if you have been into our office, I know some people were putting stickers on our posters as our gift for our event. Please share it with other people so they can hear what we're doing. And then looking ahead, we are really needing to hire a larger team. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, there are a lot of disparities that exist from cradle to career, and we will continue to address those until there aren't any. And to do that, we need people. So I will be continuing to hire more people onto our team, which is exciting, and we'll keep working. We are, like I said earlier, planning to open 2 to 3 new networks in the next couple of years. And more than anything, continuing to broaden and deepen our work. If you're a social media person, this is how you can follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, all of those things. So follow us, like us, and share us, please. And thank you. Before I take a couple of questions, I'll just note that our FAFSA sheets here, I will leave these up at the front of the room. I also brought some of our strategic plan sheets. If you're curious about what we're focused on, I'll leave those up here as well. And then we also had some leftover attendee packets from our summit. So if you're curious about the types of sessions that we offer to the community, again, I will say some of the feedback we received on this summit is please keep it free. Please keep it free. It makes it very accessible to smaller nonprofits, volunteers, you name it, to have this be a free event. And so we'll continue to work on making sure that that stays the case. But this contains all sorts of great information, people that were there and what they were presenting on, my card, and if you know a kindergartner or a parent of an incoming kindergartner, we also have some kindergarten cards on our website that are very easy for families to use to practice some skills as they're preparing to enter kindergarten. This is a free resource that we offer. It's also translated into, I believe, 3 other languages: English, Spanish, Somali, and pardon me, Arabic. So please access these 2, and I'll leave these up here. How'd I do, Marilyn? Great. That was a speed round of Cradle to Career. Thank you so much for your support. It's really great to have you.
Questions for Julie, and as she is answering the questions, I'll take this and walk it
Oh, basket.
around the
Sure,
table.
sure,
If anybody wants to take.
Yeah, I can have to-
Here, let me put these in there too.
Julie, what's the biggest challenge this year?
Vicky,
So
okay.
the question was, what is the biggest challenge this year?
If I had to pick one, and I'm glad you asked it, Vicky, like I mentioned, we received some sustainable funding through the state of Minnesota. We also need to grow, and so that funding represents about 1/4 of our annual revenue. So continuing to look for money to support our work remains a challenge. It's not a different challenge from any other nonprofit, but it's something that I'm really dedicated to doing so that we can keep doing the good work that we're doing. I'd pick that one first.
So awesome, Julie. Can you address maybe just how do you prepare the undergraduate? So after you finish, if you do graduate, how do you partner to make sure the candidates are ready for the workforce and the career part of the Cradle to Career?
Good question.
And then one on safety, school safety with referendum coming up.
Okay, those are big questions, Dr. Patel. So right now, as I mentioned, our networks are focused on the transition to kindergarten area. Prenatal to age 3 is our other work group. So that's really working at access to adequate prenatal care. I could speak ad nauseum about the need for accessing adequate prenatal care, even in our Rochester health-focused community. There are communities within our community that are accessing prenatal care at a much lower rate. And then our third network is high school graduation. So we have not, Dr. Patel opened a network around post-secondary preparedness and graduation. And we also have not opened a network around workforce. However, we are connected to those partners and doing our pre-work and our pre-research to understand when it is time to convene those people, who needs to be at the table, and what are the issues that we need to be addressing. So for workforce, I think right now I have to say, stay tuned. Our biggest focus is making sure that kids in our community are graduating and entering into some type of post-secondary program, be it a training program, a 2-year college, or a 4-year college. So that's the answer to that. In terms of school safety, we are working on a pilot, a grant that we got from the Department of Justice with Lourdes High School around student voice in student safety. And so if you remember a while back, Lourdes had a scare where someone called in a threat to their building and actually claimed that something awful was happening at that high school. It turned out to be a farce. But it really helped Lord understand that they needed some more defined practices around school safety in the building. And it happened right at the time that we were looking for a partner to work with us on centering student voice in that type of planning. So for the last 2 years, we've been working with Lord to understand from student perspective first, but also staff and families, what is needed in terms of feeling safe at school. And that all of those findings should be coming out in 2026.
Thank you, Julie. So before we go, I have one or two quick polling questions. Number one, at our last board meeting, we talked about the possibility of finding an alternative location. A couple of the things that are involved were food, parking, and access. So my first question is there anybody here that would have an issue with moving out of the downtown area to someplace outside of the downtown? All right. If we had an alternative that was out of the downtown area that had immediate parking, parking lot right outside, and potentially better food, does this sound like something that people would be interested in? Just with a raise of hands. Okay, that's what we were hoping for. We have a committee that is going to be looking at a couple of different alternatives. One of the things that we need to make sure is that we have the appropriate media support. Joseph has indicated his willingness to be a part of the committee to evaluate the internet activity and things like that. So stay tuned. We'll see what we can come up with, and we'll bring some proposals to the group. We have food left over. We have boxes that are there. Any last comments or questions for the good of the club? Okay, one other alternative. If we were to combine the committee, the social, and the community service activities into one meeting and have a third club meeting and have the programs for that third club meeting more focused on things like either people's hobbies, travel, and or some very specific things about Rotary, how many of you would be interested in that third club meeting by a raise of hands?
When would that be? One of the weeks.
One of the weeks, yes, one of the Thursdays.
Replace the third Thursday, Thursday?
One of the two, but yes. Okay, so it looks like there's an appetite for that as well. Thank you for that input. Sorry the meeting went a little longer. There was a lot to go through today, but have a wonderful day. And you're done. Rich, I'm gonna leave this here.